Hello and welcome live from Tehran. You've tuned to Press TV's World News. I'm Marcia Hashimi. Thanks so much for being with us. First story this hour takes us to Bahrain, where prominent human rights activist Nabil Rajab will face trial for tweets slamming Bahrain's prison system and its involvement in the Saudi war on Yemen. Rajab's lawyer says the rights activist faces a prison term for accusing security forces of torturing detainees in a main prison and killing civilians in Yemen. The rights activist was notified of the referring of his case to the High Criminal Court for trial. Now, according to his lawyer, Rajab will face up to 13 years behind bars if convicted in this case. The 52-year-old activist was arrested earlier this month on no specific charges as the Al Khalifa regime has intensified its crackdown on Shia Muslims. Last Monday, Bahrain revoked the citizenship of top Shia cleric Ayatollah Isa Qasem. The move has triggered mass demonstrations in the country and widespread international condemnation. Crossing over to West Virginia, joined by Colin Cavell, author and lecturer. Mr. Cavell, great to have you back with us. Looking at this situation, now we have a human rights activist, once again, Nabil Rajab, being threatened with being in prison for years just because of tweeting about Bahrain's prison system. What is going on in Manama?
Ms. Marzia, the illegal Al Khalifa regime is attempting to shut down all up in the kingdom by arresting all of the opposition leaders, by revoking their citizenship, and by deporting them from the country. So they want to have a clean sweep, and they think that by total repression that this will end the opposition to this illegal regime.
When you're talking about deportations, we know that right now, actually the leading Shia cleric there, Ayatollah Isa Qasem, actually has gotten deportation notice or canceling, basically, of his citizenship. How is it that the nationals of that country, that this government, this regime, can get away with actually deporting people, canceling their citizenship, and there's no outcry, really, international outcry? The U.S. has said a few things. However, they continue to deal with Bahrain. UK is the same way, of course, continuing to sell arms to them. What will it take? What has to happen, in your perspective, that we see more pressure from the international side of things on the regime in Manama?
Well, it is true, as you say, that the United States and the United Kingdom have largely kept silent regarding the arrest, the deportations, the stripping of citizenship of all of these opposition leaders. But that is a demerit on their part. It undermines their legitimacy as leading states in the international community. On the other hand, you get comments from the leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who said on Friday that attacking Sheikh Isa Qasim means removing all obstacles blocking the heroic Bahraini youths from attacking the regime. So by making this statement, Iran demonstrates that it is one of the new leaders in the international community. And it is standing up for human rights. It is standing up for freedom of expression. It's standing up for the principles embedded in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, whereas the United Kingdom and the United States are merely protecting their hegemonic oil interests.
Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Colin Cavell, author and lecturer out of West Virginia. And now to Yemen, where at least 8 people have lost their lives in a fresh wave of Saudi airstrikes across Yemen. Saudi warplanes bombarded Khalan al-Taya district of the western province of Sana'a early on Sunday morning. The attack left 5 people dead. Separately, 3 women were killed and several others injured when Saudi strikes hit residential areas in southwestern Lahij province. Meanwhile, fierce fighting continues between Saudi-backed militants loyal to Yemen's former government on one side and the Yemeni army and its allies on the other. At least 55 people from both sides have been reportedly killed in the provinces of Taz, Beida, and Marib in 2 days. 70 people were also wounded in the fighting. Turning to London, joined by the Director of Human Rights for Yemen, Ms. Kim Sharif. Thank you so much for being with us. What does it mean, from your perspective? On the one hand, we have talks going on allegedly to bring this situation to an end. At the same time that these talks have been going on from the very beginning, the Saudi airstrikes have continued. Your perspective?
Good afternoon, Ms. Hashimi. Thank you for inviting me on. It is clearly disrespect and complete disregard to the rules of engagement and rules of international law, as we all know. There's supposed to be a complete cessation of hostilities towards the Yemen in view of the dialogue in Kuwait. Unfortunately, this is a brutal regime, a dictatorship regime that doesn't seem to appreciate the meaning of rules and norms. It is a cowardly regime simply because it has lost this battle, and it knows that it has lost this battle, and there's no way in which it's going to advance into Sana'a, which is what it is trying to do. There has been several attempts to advance in the Naham area and elsewhere, and on each occasion they were defeated spectacularly, and that is basically what is hurting them deeply. And they're trying to make ground gains somehow so as to empower them in the negotiations in Kuwait. But alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, they will never, ever, ever make that happen, ever, because this is a rule of natural justice, and these people aren't going to win. They're going to lose, and they're going to lose more miserably as time goes by. All that is happening is more victims, and that is the saddest part of all of this. But compensation will be forthcoming when the time is right.
This looking at the situation in general, though, as I said, the bombardment continues to take place during these so-called talks in Kuwait. But the fact that Saudi Arabia has wanted to talk at all, is it also significant of the, if you want to say, the loss or the pressure that they have also been under? Because things obviously have not gone as well as the Saudis had wanted to. It's been now more than a year that they have been involved in this bombardment of the most impoverished Arab country in the region. And of course, they could not win. Tell me about the Saudi side of things, how you see it.
Well, they are, as I said, very, very frustrated. I mean, they are by nature arrogant people. That is the nature of the brutal dictatorship, like as they are, this unfortunate regime that we are all having to put up with. They have no respect for rules of laws or anything. The thing is, whenever they get hit on the ground in the border areas of Jizan, Asir, and Najran, they get even more frustrated, and they try to impose their air power, which doesn't get them anywhere, because at the end of the day, the ground is with the Yemenis. They were the ones who wanted the dialogue. They had hoped that this dialogue would buy them time in order to galvanize their position so as to make more ground advancement. Sadly, that didn't work out for them. We are very glad to see that that didn't work out for them, and it will never work. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to buy time with the negotiations in Kuwait, seemingly to be wanting to do peace, but at the same time, they are using this space of time to try and galvanize their position on the ground level. And they're not getting anywhere with it, as we have seen time and again. They're being defeated spectacularly. The only victims here are the little children and women who are being murdered. It is murder in their own homes, because this war against the Yemen is illegal. According to all law experts known internationally, this war against the Yemen is illegal. What is saddening is the world power have failed miserably. They are vicariously liable for the war crimes and genocide and crimes against humanity being committed in the Yemen by their proxy, the brutal regime of Saudi Arabia. That basically means the international platform needs to have a new forum for regulating international relations, because the existing systems don't work and they have failed miserably, and the Yemen crisis has exposed their failure.
Thank you so much for being with us out of London, Ms. Kim Sharif, Director, Human Rights for Yemen. Well, a group of Palestinian prisoners have decided to launch a hunger strike in support of a fellow prisoner. Bilal Kayed was put under administrative detention on the day he was supposed to be released. Kayed has been in a hunger strike for over 2 weeks and is in critical condition. Press TV's Mohammed Hamayel brings us this report.
27 Palestinian political detainees have joined an open-ended hunger strike in solidarity with their fellow prisoner Bilal al-Kayed, who has been on hunger strike for 15 days. Most of the prisoners are affiliated with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Bilal al-Kayed was arrested and sentenced to 14 years in the Rimon prison. His sentence was extended on the day he was supposed to be released. The move has prompted Kayed to begin a hunger strike against the decision.
He was supposed to be released. Instead, he was given an administrative detention sentence. These are punitive measures taken against us. Extending a sentence with administrative detention increased the tension in Israeli prisons, as these decisions do not target one person, but all prisoners.
The Palestinian Prisoners Society has also stated that Israel has stepped up its violence against Palestinian political prisoners.
It is clear that the extreme right-wing Israeli cabinet is responsible for rising cruelty against Palestinians. The military, police and others are affected by the kind of conditions caused by the Israeli Knesset's decisions. The reason for the deterioration of the situation, whether in Israeli prisons or out of them, is the Israeli leaders.
It has been reported that signs of exhaustion and fatigue are apparent on Kayed's body, as his hunger strike is beginning to take its toll on his health. The Israeli prison administration has placed Kayed in solitary confinement in the Rimon prison at the moment. According to witness accounts, the Israelis raid his cell and search him every night. Kayed has not been charged for the extension of his arrest, nor has he been tried. The only statement given by the Israeli courts was that there is secret information regarding his detention. The Palestinian political prisoners in the Israeli detention centers have united against Israel's policy of administrative detention, a policy that allows Israel to hold Palestinians without trial or charge for an indefinite period. Mohammed Hamail for Press TV, occupied Ramallah.
And now to the UK, where the Labour Party has plunged into crisis following the resignation of a group of shadow ministers in the wake of Britain's vote to leave the European Union. Now, 6 cabinet members have submitted their resignations to Jeremy Corbyn. They are Heidi Alexander, Ian Murray, Gloria de Burel, Lillian Greenwood, Lucy Powell and Kerry McCarthy. The group said Corbyn's weak performance in the run-up to the EU referendum forced them to step down. Corbyn is facing mounting criticism because 37% of Labour supporters voted against the party's advice to remain in the EU. On Saturday, 2 Labour MPs also proposed a vote of no confidence against Corbyn for similar reasons. Shadow Foreign Secretary Hilary Benn was sacked after he defended his stance that Jeremy Corbyn is failing and should resign.
That it is increasingly widely felt that the leadership that we currently have is not working. And in those circumstances, we would not be doing our job if we didn't say that openly and honestly, and that is what I've done.
Then added that Jeremy Corbyn's resignation would benefit him and the party both. Meanwhile, a spokesman for Corbyn says he has no intention to resign and that those who seek Corbyn's departure have no plan for the party's future. More than 175,000 people have signed an online petition backing the Labour leader, who was elected in a landslide victory last September. Let's cross over to Bristol, joined by investigative journalist Tony Gosling. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, lots of fallout after the Brexit. Let's look at the Labour Party first of all. Your perspective, do you think that Jeremy Corbyn is going to last or not as the leader?
Well, I mean, just look at the figures. We've had 175,000 people saying Jeremy Corbyn should stay in this petition and 8 MPs leaving. I mean, the reason they've left is because the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Hilary Benn, said that Jeremy Corbyn is not a leader. Now, how can he carry on being the leader of the opposition and allowing somebody who's in a senior shadow post, like Shadow Foreign Secretary, to say something like that? Of course, Corbyn had to sack Hilary Benn, and as a result, various other Blairite loyalists to Hilary Benn, who, by the way, was the cheerleader in the House of Commons from the Labour side on the vote to bomb Syria last year, which basically is a tiny minority of an elite only would go along with that. So it's clear that Hilary Benn and those that have also resigned alongside him after his sacking are really part of a kind of elite that really are not interested in what ordinary Labour Party members, let alone the rest of society, want to hear. But let's get it in perspective. 21 of Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet are still in post today and still backing him, and yet 8 have left, including one who was sacked. So actually only 7 have left. So what we've got here is about a third of the shadow cabinet have gone, and some would say good riddance. Those 175,000 would probably say that, because these people represent what is actually a legacy from the Blair years. They're known as the Blairites. One that's Bristol MP that's gone is Kerry McCarthy. She's Shadow Agriculture Minister, but she's also a vegan. So she won't eat a lot of the products that the farmers in Britain grow every day. So to many farmers, for example, on the ground here in Britain, she wasn't really a credible agriculture secretary anyway. And that's what we're looking at, is effectively, I think, a minority of Blairite MPs who are big supporters of Tony Blair are slowly kind of falling away. And I think Jeremy Corbyn will survive all this because he's still got the massive support of the vast majority of people in the Labour Party. This has just been an attempt to have a coup against him by the City of London and their supporters, which Hilary Benn and the others that have gone today represent.
At the end of the day, do you think that this situation that the Labour Party is going through right now can actually be more positive than negative for the party?
Yes, I think so. And one of the interesting things that might happen is what happened in New Zealand many years ago. It's when you've got a kind of remnant, a rump, if you want, of people who aren't part of the grassroots supporters of a political party on the left, like the Labour Party, is they may be forced to split away. So we might see a kind of split, a bit like the Brexit versus Remain split that's been in the Conservative Party, go on in the Labour Party. And the loyalists to Corbyn will be, for example, they will get a promotion through the party, and those that have been seen by some today as traitors to the party. I mean, for example, how can your foreign secretary say this guy's not a leader? You can't allow someone to say that because that leader has been voted there by the membership of the entire party, not just by Hilary Benn. So it may be that that these people almost kind of disappear off into history, as Tony Blair has. And by the way, we've got the Chilcot report coming out any time now after the referendum on the Brexit, which will point the finger at a lot of the people who are the Blairite supporters within the Labour Party. So these people, in a way, may be toast after the Chilcot report comes out anyway.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us out of Bristol. So Tony Gosling, investigative journalist. Now to the United States, where natural disasters have taken the lives of 26 people over the past days. 24 lost their lives in flooding in West Virginia. Now another 2 people died in a California wildfire burning out of control. Both states have declared states of emergency and are now receiving federal aid to cope with the disasters.
West Virginia's worst flooding in more than a century. On Thursday alone, the eastern U.S. state saw 1/4 of its annual rainfall, which is over 25 centimeters. Days of heavy rain have made rivers surge to dangerous levels. High waters have washed away cars and cut power to around 32,000 homes and businesses. Hundreds of people have been evacuated so far, and rescue operations are underway to save others. Hundreds of homes have also been destroyed or severely damaged. The town of White Sulphur Springs is the hardest hit, where some residents lost everything.
This town's never faced anything like this. This is the worst disaster ever.
To the west of the United States, a massive wildfire is burning out of control in California. Flames fueled by hot and dry weather broke out on Thursday. The blaze has left at least 150 homes in ruins, while damaging scores of others. Thousands of people have also been evacuated so far. Local authorities warn that more residents may be forced to flee the advancing flames. Firefighters are battling the blaze, yet a lot of communities remain in danger.
Well, let's cross over to Seattle, joined by Ms. Jody Grage, Vice Chair of the Green Party of Washington State. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, definitely taking a beating, parts of California. Let's talk about this natural disasters in general and overall the effect that it has. We have seen this being repeated time and time again, especially in California. Is there something that can be done that's not being done, or is this something just natural and it just has to take its course?
Well, the climate change is definitely an emergency, and the two corporate political parties here are not willing and maybe not able to deal with it, but it's a matter of priorities. It's important to remember that when World War II started, it took the United States 6 months to totally redirect its economy to the war effort. The climate change is an emergency of equal proportion. The Green Party approach would work on several fronts. It would work on the employment front, putting people to work doing things that will help alleviate and remediate for natural disasters. There's another thing to consider, and that is pollution. Our average foodstuff in the United States travels 1,500 miles to get to where it is consumed. So there are some systems like our food system that need to be reorganized. In California and other places, there are also historic claims to water rights that really have nothing to do with the practical needs today. So there are several systems that need to be reorganized, and a lot of these systems are very interrelated. So I encourage everyone to go to Jill2016.com. Jill Stein is our presidential candidate in 2016, or the presumed candidate, because we haven't had our convention yet. And the Green New Deal, which you can find reference to on that website, talks about the interrelatedness of so many things and how we can work on them.
Do you think that
if you take them one at a time, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Do you think that with because you mentioned the two parties, the Democratic and Republican Party, do you think that they are out of touch with this side of things as far as we're looking at so many of these natural disasters as they're being called, but a lot of preventive steps could be taken, and understanding as far as climate, the situation with the climate control. Do you think that there are many steps that are just not being taken on that side of things by these two parties that could be taken?
Very definitely. Part of the problem is that in order to do a lot of what needs to be done, you would have to ignore some of the very powerful and lucrative lobbying efforts in Washington, D.C. The fossil fuel industry being one of them, the large agricultural interests, but this is an emergency. I'm a retired teacher, and I used to have a banner up in my room that said, "Good planets are hard to find." And we are not taking very good care of our planet, which will continue to exist with or without us. This is a real emergency. Climate change can be devastating, but there are ways to help mediate the effects on people and in various regions.
All right. Thank you so much. So sorry, we're out of time. I really appreciate, though, you being with us out of Seattle, Washington, Ms. Jody Grage, Vice Chair of the Green Party of Washington State. And with that, that brings us to the end of the top 5 right here at Press TV. Thanks so much for staying tuned.